Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we have two very special guests with us today. From Brute Force and Ignorance, we have Dan and Jake.
Thank you so much for having us on the show. I'm a huge fan of InterPartyConflict, and I'm really excited to get to talk with you guys.
Awesome.
And I'm just here.
You're here for the food. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So welcome, Jake and Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show. How about, before we get any further, how about you guys tell our listeners about your show, what you guys do, maybe tell them how you got into tabletop gaming, that sort of stuff.
Sure. So Brute Force and Ignorance is a transatlantic actual play podcast. Mm-hmm. I am located in Connecticut. The three other players are all in different parts of the United States. And then Dan and Matt Kirby are located on the opposite side of the ocean. So there's that kind of sets us apart because there's not a lot of international actual play podcast. Mm-hmm. I am the dungeon master for the campaigns that we've been running. And I got into D&D back in the days of 3.5.
Yeah.
Right around 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who played in high school.
Yeah.
And he...
Sorry.
It's all good. And he invited me to play one day. And at that time, D&D was still... There was still a very real stigma around D&D. Mm-hmm. So I was a little cautious about, like, this is really nerdy, but I guess I'll give it a try. And I fell in love with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dan, how about yourself? How did you get into D&D or tabletop gaming in general?
You know what's weird? Like, D&D is not a big thing over in England, or at least it wasn't. It's so much bigger now than it was. So I've only been playing for about 2.5 years. So 5e is the only thing that I've ever played, and now this is when you go no instead of going yeah. So the way I started was in my local comic shop. There was a guy who was basically doing a pay-to-play session. It was nothing. It was essentially like about $2 to play, and he would DM for us. We did a 4-hour session, and I've always been curious about D&D, and I'm a massive gamer in general, and I just fell in love with it. In my first session, when he turned round and said for the first time, "What would you like to do?" it just blew my mind. I was like, "So I can do anything?" And he just said, "Yeah, this is the way the game goes." And it just from that moment on, I was absolutely hooked. So yeah, I've been playing for about 2.5 years, and I've been DMing for about 2 years. And I just, man, it's the best game in the world for me. It's there's nothing like it. There's nothing more sociable that I've ever come across, especially face-to-face playing. It's it's an absolute joy. And I play Bruin on Brute Force and Ignorance, the human druid, and I also record and produce the show, do all the music, all that sort of stuff. And me and Harms have been friends for what's it got to be, like 6 years or something now, dude?
Yeah, it's got to be going right around there.
Yeah, and we've been friends on social media for a long time, and we actually met up about 2-3 years ago at not San Diego. What was it? C2E2.
C2E2.
Yes, where we all hang out with another group of podcast friends there, and we got horrendously drunk, sang karaoke, and just hung out. Harms dedicated a song to me. And we ended up being in the bathroom together. Don't worry, this isn't going to get weird. And in this particular club, there was the toilet stall didn't have a door. I've never been. The only other place I've ever had that is when I went to China for a few months. There was no door on this stall, and it didn't even have hinges, so it wasn't like it was a mistake and maintenance hadn't done it.
So it was made without a door.
It was made without a door, and there was just me and Holmes were just sort of standing up, doing our thing, and there was a guy taking a huge dump right next to us, and it was a fantastic bonding experience for the two of us.
It's true, and I believe that was after I dedicated the hit song "I Believe in a Thing Called Love" by The Darkness to Dan.
You did.
There you go.
You did. I cried. I cried a little bit.
Very good.
I guess my biggest question is, what's it like having friends that you didn't meet through D&D?
I don't know, probably the same as 99.9% of the rest of the population.
I guess, yeah. Because yeah, I mean, Jeff and I met because we had a mutual friend that was playing D&D with me, and then he invited Jeff along too.
Right. I mean, we went to the same high school, but
Yeah.
like different grades, different classes. You know.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think I had any classes with you.
no, I don't think so.
Even the class that I went to, because I would always skip out on my video class.
The class that you weren't actually a part of, but you showed up every day.
Right. Yeah, so that's really cool. Sounds like you guys had some cool experiences getting into the game for the first time, and I love your podcast. I think it's great. It'll be great to have some more of it. You guys are currently on hiatus, is that correct? Still?
So we just started recording our new campaign with all new characters. It's a new adventure. The players are going to be working for Amélie Boulanger as they run through Amélie's Astounding Adventures, the new adventuring organization located in Waterdeep.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, when I first started listening to Brute Force and Ignorance, it was pretty obvious that most of the players were pretty new. I don't mean that as a bad thing. Just, being someone who's played the game for a while, I can tell, I can usually tell when someone is new to the game. But I was amazed at how quickly the players took to like role playing and such. If I recall, like there's the last, I don't know, bunch of episodes have involved, I think the character is Flint.
Oh yeah, Frank's character of Flint.
Yeah, like it's all been revolving around like his character's backstory and stuff, and like it's really impressive considering where everybody started and then where everybody is, by that point. So I think you guys are all doing a great job, and Jake, I think you especially deserve some credit for bringing out the role playing in the game and in the players and such. So to both of you, to everybody in your group, good job.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me.
Cool.
Dan can tell a really great story. He tells it way better than I do about his reaction to Kirby's first big roleplay moment, like with the bow on the cliff.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite stories from the podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you very much for saying that, dude. Every single player, except for me, had zero experience. The only exception was Kirby, who did that very first one shot that got me into D&D. But he only had 4 hours of experience playing the game. So everyone else, except for me and Harms, basically had zero experience. But yeah, one of those eureka moments was when Kirby's character Aurelius role played his elf ranger walking across down the coast up towards this cliff, and screaming out to the sky that he wasn't gonna he had to follow the path that this god basically kind of gave him this bow, and he had to follow the path that this god had sent him on. So he took his regular bow, like the one that he'd had for years, and he throws it over the cliff, and it shatters on the rocks beneath. And yeah, it was just like, oh my god, he's got it. Like, he's absolutely 100%. He's in that moment. He understands his character. He understands the story and the consequences of what is going on. And he just went for it. And I was honestly, I was sat here and I had chills running up and down my arms. And I was just staring at my stupid monitor with R. Chewin from Terry Pratchett's novels staring at me in the face as my wallpaper.
Oh.
And just listening to one of my best friends act out this scene, and I could see it all in my head, and it was a beautiful moment. And since then, we've had so many other scenes with all the other brand new players. It's been fantastic. And seeing them grow as players it's massively rewarding for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you guys got really good chemistry and stuff, so
Yeah.
it works really well.
Yeah, it's become a very strange brotherhood.
All right. Do you guys have any sort of current events that are going on? Anything?
Yeah, anything you guys
feel
want
like talking about?
Not particularly.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, that was really interesting, Holmes. Thanks for that. No, aside from the show coming back with this mini campaign, whilst we're waiting for Kirby to kind of come back to us, he's going through a rough time at the moment. So he's gone off. The party as a whole decided not to carry on without him. We didn't want to carry on the story of Brute Force without him, so we decided to start up this AAA, as it's been dubbed, which I didn't get for a long time until Jai started talking about it, and that made me laugh. Talking about not fixing people's wagon wheels and things like that. And but yeah, aside from that, for me, I've been doing a lot of artwork recently. Been sort of playing Overwatch. I recently quit my job, so I'm not doing construction anymore. I'm going to be retraining. I'm going to be training to be a dog behavioralist, and I'm going to help train dogs for disabled people.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Well, good job.
Very cool.
Good luck as well.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, it's tough business to get into, but I've got a good mentor, so.
Cool. Jeff, anything you got going on? Sorry to put you on the spot. I know I never ask you how
question.
You're doing.
Yeah. It's not like a weekly thing. And every week I'm still just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life? No, I've just been I don't like it's getting around it's barbecue season.
Oh yeah.
So we got Independence Day coming up. And so like that's I've been like planning on going to people's barbecues and stuff like that. So I'm kind of excited for that, but
yeah. In a couple weeks I have a week off of work, which is going to be nice. It was supposed to be 2 weeks off of work, but then like a month ago they decided no, 1 week. So I'm going to need to I want to try to get a bunch of stuff done that week. But like I ran into in January, I don't want to schedule myself a whole bunch of stuff and then find out that I have no time to, like, I don't want to overwork myself during what is supposed to be, my week off. So we'll see. I might try to record some Friend Quest or something that week. So yeah. I'll get in touch with you about that. Yeah, I don't know. Looking forward to it. So stay tuned, I guess, for a couple weeks from now.
We lead pretty exciting lives. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I will say I'm in the process of buying my first house.
Oh
wow.
So if everything works out, I should be closing the end of July.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I love the way that you forgot that. You were just like...
Yeah, that has been my entire life the past, 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited to have it's a nice little house. There's a nice little brook that goes in the back of the yard.
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to have, a dedicated recording area set up. So hopefully my audio will improve.
Sure.
Yeah, anytime I've sort of been, anytime I kind of look at houses and stuff online, I'm like, because I eventually want to get my own house. I'm always like, okay, where am I going to record? Where where's my office going to be? Sort of.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, when I was buying my house, I didn't know I was going to be recording. So Not everybody is that privileged, Jeff. No, I love my house. I love our recording space.
Yeah, as we sit in his dedicated recording office.
Well, I mean, it's just my computer room.
Yeah.
It's also where I play video games for hours and hours and hours. It's also where I have all my robot models. So
it's the nerd room.
It's the nerd room.
That's the nerd room.
Anyway,
we're already 20 minutes in here.
Well, yeah. Do you guys want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Shoot,
So
I did not.
So let's start recording now.
All right. I want the three of you to imagine you are in a tavern. There's a shady figure who has invited you there with claims of a job that will make you untold amounts of riches and get you all sorts of magical power and so on. But when you get to the tavern, you see the shady figure. They're over in the corner that, for whatever reason, is not lit as well as the rest of the building. And there is a bard that is currently playing up on stage. And you get over there and you start having your conversation where this shady figure is about to tell you the details of this job. And the bard just keeps playing louder and louder and louder. So I want the three of you to make me a perception check.
You got it.
Oh, wow. It rolled good for once.
Yep. So Jeff got an 18.
I got a 3.
A 3.
I got a 12.
And a 12. Okay, so you got the whole range of results there. So Dan, you're trying to listen in on these details and you just can't. You just can't hear it. You can't hear anything. Jake, you hear a little bit. This guy's trying to tell you what, where you're supposed to go, what sort of dangers there are going to be. You can make out the broad strokes, but none of the details.
Okay.
But Jeff, on the other hand, over all of this noise, you thought you heard where you're supposed to go, but you didn't quite get it, so you asked for clarification, and then the shady figure, yells at the top of his lungs, "In the dragon's horn!" So, today's Dragon's Horde item was submitted by Dan. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
I would honestly prefer you to read it because I don't want to break tradition.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So today's magic item is the Shrill Glaive. This is a magic weapon. It is light, it is two-handed, and it requires attunement. This item has a +1 to attack rolls, so it is a +1 glaive, I guess, with 1d10 slashing damage. Fabled to have the soul of a banshee trapped inside, this expertly made glaive is light and durable, unlike many others made in Faerun. It is designed to be used by a more dexterous wielder, hence the light tag on it.
Correct.
Once a day, the wielder can use the Banshee Wail. All creatures in a 30-foot radius must make a DC 12 Constitution save. On a failed save, if the target is below 50 hit points, it drops to 0 hit points and is unconscious. On a successful save, the creature takes 3d8 psychic damage.
Yeesh.
And this item regains its charge at dusk.
Oof. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, like any of the Banshee Wail like spell. Is that based on the Banshee Wail spell or something?
It's on the Banshee's actual like innate ability. So the actual-
Okay, yeah.
the wail that she releases, that's what it's based on. It's actually really nerfed from what it actually is in the
Oh,
Monster
of
Manual.
course. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm actually not hugely familiar with how the mechanics of the Banshee works in 5th edition, but I like how it's kind of like Power Word Kill, but less powerful because it is a cap of 50.
Right.
Also, unless I'm mistaken, Power Word Kill doesn't drop you to 0, it just kills you, right?
It kills you flat out, yeah.
Yeah. So with this, you can still be saved even if you are if the target is does drop to 0. Also, I like how it still deals damage even on a successful save.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, Power Word Kill doesn't even get a save, so that's quite different. So I don't know what I'm talking about,
Jeez.
but I think it's really cool. I think it's that effect is really cool. I love the thematic, the theming of banshees. They've always been a creature that's kind of been scary to me, even like in legends and stuff.
Yeah, they're very iconic. It's very
I also like glaives.
Yeah.
I would say glaives might be my favorite reach weapon.
Yeah, pole arms are kind of fun. There was something about pole arms I was looking up recently. Oh, there's a pole arm master
The feet.
in 5th edition that I was looking at. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
It's like one of the feats that like most people think is most powerful.
Right, because it's you get an attack of opportunity when they come at you, and not just when they leave your space.
I think so, but also I think it lets you like make a second attack or something as a bonus action, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm.
You can
Sorry,
use
go
the other end of the glaive to hit them as a bonus action, as well as using your reaction to attack them as they come into your range.
Yeah. So there's a character I was sort of statting out. Like you do, I always make it way higher level than I'm ever gonna play it because I don't ever play for long term.
Yeah.
But it's a warcaster, with the polearm mastery.
Yeah.
So you can spell of opportunity as they come into your space.
Okay.
That's amazing.
And just have it there using a staff, like their wizard staff, as a quarter staff, which counts for the polearm thing. So I was like, that'd be really neat. As like, if they come into your space and you just cast, I don't think you could do fireball, but you can, hit them with something, scorching ray or something like that.
That's a great idea.
So, it's a really nasty combo. But again, it's like you have to take like 2 or 3 feats to get to that point, and that's like I don't think I've played a character over, I think level 9 is the highest I think I've played in 5th edition. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, this is really cool. I like anything that incorporates like abilities that like a monster would have, but not necessarily a player. So like I like magic items that give you an ability that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a plus for me. I feel like we've had a lot of magic items for the Dragon's Horde that have souls trapped inside.
It's a great way to like.
It is.
Because that soul could come into play in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, they could just be like, oh, that's what gives it its power. But it could actually be a conscious soul living in the item that the DM can bring out at a later time.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's a good thing that's a good idea for magic items.
No, I agree. What if there was what if you use this as a plot hook in that, like, you get this weapon and then eventually it breaks and the Banshee gets out?
Right.
And either you have to go catch it or kill it,
right.
or I guess I'm not familiar with how sentient Banshees are offhand, but maybe it
thanks you
or begs the party to help avenge it or something.
Right, yeah. Maybe it was like cursed and put in that item, and whatever you did released it, and now it's like, oh, well, can we go kill the thing that put me in there, please?
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
I'd love to go do that.
I think that's one of my favorite things about magic items that have some sort of entity inside of them, is what if that entity gets out?
Yeah.
And how many potentially awesome story hooks can come from that.
Yeah, I mean, this actually was inspired by I think it was the Silent Assassin from the Unearthed Tips and Tricks.
Okay.
So when the party basically come across an assassin who is either attempting to or has killed some sort of a figure in in the game, and then you go like on a chase mission, and I think the example you guys gave in the book was that they have spider climb and things like that, and they have to like chase them over rooftops.
Yeah.
I essentially built that character into my game, and this weapon just kind of came from the inspiration from that encounter. So yeah, I mean, the reason you guys are totally correct, the reason I put the fabled Banshee soul into the weapon is because it could serve as a plot hook. It could end up being nothing. It's up to the DM. But you can use it as a plot hook, but also it, like I said earlier, it is a nerfed version of the Banshee Whale. And the reason that I put the Banshee Whale in there is because there's a barbarian in the game I'm running, and I can't kill him. he's a bear totem, and he takes 0 damage. I love the guy; he's one of my best friends, and he just waltzes in and just murders everything. And the reason that I made this weapon light as well was because the character that it is that actually has it in the campaign is a rogue, so I wanted them to give them some sort of an advantage over him. I say advantage, it's more I wanted to challenge them, because there's no point just having the party waltz in and just steamroll absolutely everything, because they have this powerhouse of a barbarian that goes in. So I came up with this item to challenge Ulf the barbarian, and which is his name. And it's I mean, I had to nerf it to, if you fail on the save, it has to be below 50 hit points to drop to 0, because as far as I understand it, the monster manual Banshee Whale is just, if you fail, you die. That's really, really harsh. It's way too powerful for an enemy to use, but also for a party to take in case they do get this particular rogue. But yeah, and obviously the psychic damage, because Bear Totem doesn't block psychic damage. So it's an item that is specifically customized to beat this particular barbarian.
Sure.
And I like that. I like that you said challenge, not defeat, because
exactly. Yeah.
It's too easy for DMs to get in the mindset of like, all right, I have to kill this player. like I have to kill my friend or whatever. It's like, no, it's like
precisely. But that's the thing. There's no reward if your party's just like walking every single encounter, and that's one of the most difficult things about being a DM is, balancing an encounter so the party feels achievement when they beat something instead of just like absolutely destroying everything. So that's one of the challenges of being a DM is balancing those encounters so your players, like, they get out by the skin of their teeth. There's nothing sweeter than just like killing that big bad or defeating that group of monsters, but just so it's the roars you get at the table when those moments happen, those are what I DM for. They're beautiful.
Well, cool. One thing that I would want clarified with this item is if you are over 50 hit points, what happens?
Yeah, I didn't write that.
I mean, it's fine. That's,
no, I think it was basically the same thing as in the book, which is if you if you succeed on the roll, and you're above 50 hit points, then there's no effect. But that was something I probably should have.
Oh, I see what
I said it to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we get all sorts of varying drafts of items on the show. Sometimes we get things that don't, definitely need some clarification. Sometimes they're all polished, whatever. But
sometimes the wording can be taken one way or another, and like one way is extremely overpowered and the other way is sort of whatever.
And hey, I mean, heck, published items
can do
that as well. So
there's a lot of stuff in official books that are questionable.
Yeah. All right, you guys got any more thoughts on this one?
No, I think it's a really fun magic item with a whole lot of potential, and I'd like to somehow work this into one of my campaigns.
Cool. All right, well, so that was the Shrill Glaive, courtesy of Dan from Brute Force and Ignorance. Thank you, Dan. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, or questions for us to discuss, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, or join us on our Interparty Discord, which you can find the link on our subreddit or our Facebook.
And I know I said when we recorded last week that I was going to come up with an easy link. I have not yet done so, but...
See, I tried to say it in a way so you can jump in with that new link, Gabe.
Well, tell you what, maybe I will jankily edit in me saying, go to bit.ly/interpartydiscord. All lowercase, no punctuation, no spaces. bit.ly/interpartydiscord. I'll figure something out. All right, and before we go any further, we have a giveaway today. So as always, we're giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs, courtesy of Goblin Stone. Chapel on the Cliffs is a great low-level 5th edition adventure, and Goblin Stone is a content creator based in the UK, I believe, and they create lots of great stuff out there, and they are giving out this copy to our listeners. So, Jeff, who is our winner today?
Today's winner is Samuel O.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Samuel O. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. If you don't, let us know. And be sure to check your spam folder. Also, be sure to leave Goblin Stone a review so they can continue to make great products. And, Jeff, if anybody wanted to enter this drawing, how would they enter?
They can enter by sending us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
That is correct. And also, I want to thank all of our wonderful patrons for making this show happen. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/interpartyconflict, where you can pledge to donate a small amount of money per month to help out the show, either $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. You get some cool stuff on there. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I write every month. We've got a monthly bonus podcast. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. Also, I will write about your character if you're in the highest tier for the fantasy fiction. So, got some cool rewards. You can help out the show, give $1 a month even, and get some cool stuff in return, and help keep the lights on. Mm-hmm. So once again, that's patreon.com/interpartyconflict. And Dan and Jake, do you want to tell our listeners once more about your show, about anywhere people can find you online, anything else you're working on, that sort of stuff?
Sure. So our show is Brute Force and Ignorance, a D&D podcast. Mm-hmm. You can find us anywhere where you can normally find podcasts, so the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, all the regular spots. It's a transcontinental, international actual play podcast where we're playing through 5th edition. There's 38 episodes, I believe, of the core story of Brute Force and Ignorance, and our new adventure should be going live, I believe, next week.
Cool. And your new one is going to be 5th edition as well?
It is. It's called Amelie's Astounding Adventures.
Yes, awesome. Well, I'm very excited. Hopefully our listeners are as well. And then you guys are part of the Crit Nation Fellowship, as we are. Also, the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship that everybody should check out are Crit Academy, where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They put out a book a while ago that I helped write, which was referenced earlier in this episode, the Unearthed Tips and Tricks book. They also have a bunch of other stuff they've come out with recently on DM's Guild, so check them out. Also, D&D Character Lab, Garen and Dan make characters every week and then pit them against each other to debate whose character is better. So enough with all the plugs. You guys want to go ahead and jump into some questions?
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
All right, our first question comes from Jake on email, and they ask, what would you say are the pros and cons of playing over the internet?
That Jake, whoever that guy is,
It's
a
He
weirdo.
sounds like a pretty cool dude.
No, he doesn't.
So we can discuss the cons in great detail as we've all been living them currently.
You, the listener, will not know this because I will have expertly edited them all out, but we had a lot of technical issues getting this episode going.
Yeah, not any one person's fault.
No, definitely not my fault, but yeah, no, everybody's part there have been various issues. So off the bat, that's probably a big part, getting everybody connected and everything.
Yep, technical issues. I'm actually interested to hear how you guys deal with are there like large delays because you guys record overseas basically?
Yes, so there is a bit of a delay, which Dan can talk about more as he is the master at editing that stuff together. So sometimes I'll say a joke, and then one person will laugh almost instantly, and then there's like a 3-second delay, and then someone else laughs.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That was good.
And as far as the process of playing online, you just have to learn to take that in stride because there's only so much you can do with internet connections.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, dude. It's not as bad as you would think if everyone's got a stable connection. Jake, everything seems to work out pretty much okay, and a lot of the kind of the magic of timing and stuff does come in with editing because, like Jake was saying, there is a bit of a delay and things like that. But that's all part and parcel of editing a show. You have to make sure the pacing's all right and just kind of understanding the flow of like normal conversation is very important when it comes to editing. But this is only if you're doing a show. If you're playing online, just get on and just try and have as much fun as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is a very important distinction to make. Most people are not going to have to worry about, delays aren't going to be as big of a problem if you're not recording it.
Yeah.
But if you are recording it, like whenever we have guests, I do all the editing, and so, or when we have guests, I do the editing especially. And so I do try to, if possible, I try to make sure that it flows as much as a normal conversation would. I also never want to make our guests sound dumb. So like if there is like a little delay or something, I might, cut out a delay in such a way that makes it sound like it what they said made fit a little bit more with the flow of the conversation, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. There is a bit of nuance that comes into to editing, but as far as playing, hopefully, nobody's going to be stressing out over anything like that when you're just playing a game. Personally, I find that one of the problems, because I've done a few games over the internet. We've done like our Roll20 games.
Yeah.
I find that it's just inherently less engaging when you're not face to face with other people. Because you don't know if the other person you don't know if they're looking on their phone. You don't know if they're if they're browsing Facebook or something while you're doing it. And heck, sometimes I do that without really much thought. I'll start during a lull, I'll flip over to Facebook and see what's going on. And then I have to stop myself and be like, whoa, I should probably pay closer attention. Sure. And so on. Yeah. So you never really know who is going to be paying 100% attention at all times. You can assume that everybody will, but then they might not be. It might throw everything off when one person has to have something repeated because they weren't paying attention. But then at the same time, it's hard to pay 100% attention when you're on a computer or a phone or whatever, and you've got all these other things that you could just slip over here and occupy yourself a little bit.
Yeah, when you're attached to literally everything in the world ever, that's a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah, whether you are the best player or not, it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. What was that, Gabe? I'm sorry.
Ha ha!
To kind of piggyback onto that, aside from the engagement issue, it can also be really hard to almost read the room, so to speak.
Yes.
Right.
if you know the players and you've been playing for a long time, that kind of gets negated. But especially if you're new to the campaign and it's a new group of players, it can be really hard to know if they're, upset about something or if that's just the tone of their voice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances you miss without being in person. And I know there are some ways where people could play with webcams, but then you're still dealing with the internet delay and webcam quality, and it's just not the same as actually being there in person.
Yeah, I think
definitely.
I think that is probably the biggest con is from the side of DMing, because like Harms was saying, you can't read the room, but also you don't know. Like Gabe was saying, you don't know who's been paying attention to what. So as a DM, you really have to concentrate on what the players are actually saying to know, what position they're in, what attacks they're making, what spells they're throwing out, and how the actual kind of the whole battlefield has changed, but also in the roleplay sense as well. You might have 2 players go off to like a shop and another 2 players go off to interact with an NPC. So keeping all of that in your head, that's got to be a tough job, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can definitely, it's a skill to be able to figure out, okay, let's say in Brute Force and Ignorance, when Jai went off early on to go to the brothel on his own, and I think Shay and Flint were doing research.
Okay, hold on a second. He was questioning people. He's a paladin. Lawful good paladin was questioning people.
It was genius, stroke of genius roleplay.
It was beautiful.
But it can be hard to keep track. Or there was an episode where we were inside one of like a major shipping area. So there's all these little shops, and it's just a very hustle and bustle city. And everybody was doing something different while one character was doing an infiltration. And it can get very hard to keep track of that and make sure that all of the players are actively engaged.
Yeah.
I know as a DM, I want to keep everyone engaged, and I don't want them being distracted by their phones or the computer. I want to not only tell a story, but to have whoever I'm working with also help tell that story in such a way that everyone's hooked in enough to want to pay attention.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind as a difficulty of playing online is it really depends on play style, but I feel like you kind of have to do theater of the mind unless you are using a third-party resource or whatever, like Roll20 or something.
Yeah, virtual tabletop.
Yeah, because it's a lot harder to get across placement and spacing and such when you're just doing it through voice. So like if you aren't using a virtual tabletop, then you do kind of have to do theater of the mind, which, hey, some people do theater of the mind already, so that's just whatever they want to do. But
and even with virtual tabletops, the controls can be so clunky that it's sometimes like you get frustrated and say, never mind, let's just stick with theater of the mind.
Right. So yeah, like with something like Roll20, because we've tried Roll20 with our Patreon games. If you're doing a lot of prep, it can be pretty good. Like you can do a lot of prep to make it easier for you when you're running the actual game. But if you don't have a ton of time to do the prep, or if you just if you just want to do stuff in the moment, it can be a lot harder to get everything going smoothly. It can be hard to not have to like stop every 5 seconds and make sure, okay, well, which room do we have on the map? Who's standing where? Did I bring up that photo of that lantern, and so on and so on. So there's just more and more hurdles that you have to jump over in order to get the game running smoothly. Which, hey, if that's your only way to play, I'm sure it'll be great.
Right.
It'll be just fine.
Right. Which brings us to like the pros of playing on the internet. Like you can play more often with more people.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to find groups because you can always, like if you are desperate to play and you have no game stores near you or no groups that play near you, you can always find somebody online that needs another member.
Yeah. Like without being able to play over the internet, Brute Force and Ignorance couldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to go on to that, like I had mentioned before, I grew up playing 3.5. That was where I really cut my teeth with D&D.
It's a good addition.
And what's nice is that if I want to, I can go online and I can find a group who's playing 3.5 if I want to revisit it.
Yeah.
Or I never played AD&D, but if I wanted to try that, I could find a group that does that. The other nice thing is that if you work an oddball schedule, there's going to be other people all around the world who work oddball schedules. And you can find something that works for you, where at your home area, you might not be able to find anyone else who's working third shift and able to play a game at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and another pro as well is that if you're having people round your house, for a face-to-face game, if you're online, you don't have to clean up all their crap afterwards, which is a huge,
true.
A huge problem when people come around my house. It's like, take your rubbish home with you. Seriously, treat the DM's house with respect.
Always.
Yeah, you don't have to wear pants.
Yeah, no pants. Yeah, sat here right now in a sarong doing the podcast. My pasty white legs hanging out. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think this is the first week where I've had my air conditioning running. So like the previous weeks, it's been pretty hot in here.
Yeah.
But
no, it's pretty comfortable right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So just the fact that you can play D&D or whatever game you want with pretty much anybody over the internet. You can play a game, you can find a game where 20 years ago you definitely couldn't have, I guess, for many reasons. But the internet really is just such an amazing resource for being able to engage in hobbies like this.
Without a doubt. And there's so many people who are into these hobbies. And even if you're the only person in your town or your neighborhood who's into this, the internet is your gateway to millions of people who are going to be willing and will enjoy playing with you.
Yeah, no, I don't think that you can understate the importance that the internet has had on tabletop gaming. And it's great. But like we said, there are some difficulties. You are going to have to deal with delay. You are going to have to deal with issues getting everybody connected and such. But I think once you get it going, it's pretty good. I think the very first game that I ever played over the internet, I was in a 4th edition campaign that we had played locally for the entire campaign, but then I moved to Tennessee. So I moved like 8 hours away. And we had one more session that we were going to do, but we didn't have time to do it before I moved. So what we ended up doing was, I didn't have a webcam at the time, but the DM did. So he got everybody together at his place except for me. They had a webcam that was just pointed down at the battle mat because it's 4th edition. So we couldn't do Theater of the Mind. We had to have, a battle grid and everything. And so they just had a webcam that was looking down at the battle mat. And then, I would look at it. I would tell them what I wanted to do on my turn. No, I want to move the other direction. No, the other right.
You're right.
And then and so on. And it was a little janky, but it worked. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to finish that campaign. And we were so close to the end.
Yeah. It's actually how I want to... sort of a side tangent, but like how I sort of want to do when we play with Jay.
Yeah.
Because you and Steve could just come over to my house. Jay's in California.
I didn't even think of that. That's true.
Jay's in California, and like I actually sort of been half setting up my basement to do that, so we could sit at the table and then just have Jay on a screen on one end of the table, like he's sitting.
That would be kind of cool.
So, just a little virtual friend.
Yeah, we have our friend Jay. He moved to the other side of the country a long time ago, and we recently reconnected with him. He's hanging out on our Discord a lot. And so the four of us, we used to play D&D all the time. Like that was our group was me, Jeff, our friend Steve, and then this guy Jay. And so we've gotten back in touch. Jeff is interested in running a game for the four of us.
Yeah. And I'm a terrible DM, so we'll see how it goes.
Jeff, we're all terrible DMs.
It's true.
All right. Do you guys have anything else for this question, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Just a very slight kind of con is that you're not going to get handouts, which is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Like giving out maps, giving out item cards, giving out puzzles. One of the things that I did recently in the game that I DM for is I wrote secret messages on pieces of parchment in lemon juice. And so they were invisible, And then I gave it to like whoever it was, like the rogue, and it had the thieves' can't symbol for heat or fire on it, and I just left it with them, and it wasn't sort of for a couple of games till they figured out. I kept kind of like nodding and sort of saying, "Oh, you still got that note? You don't know what to do with it." So they ended up putting it in the oven in the kitchen.
Okay.
And lo and behold, the writing like appeared in front of their very eyes, and they were like, "You're blowing my mind!" And it was awesome, and it had like a a hidden message from this particular group of rogues, and that led them to end up going to Neverwinter, and they're going to be finding out what's going on with that particular potluck, like in the not too distant. But yeah, it's you don't get that sort of interaction where if you have a DM that does kind of create practical things, you're not going to get that. And I mean, being a player, receiving something physically over the table that's so damn cool.
It's such a rewarding feeling to get something that's tangible. I know there's been a couple occasions where I've sent the guys for Brute Force and Ignorance, I've sent them maps. I'll actually send a copy of one of my maps to you because I am not a graphic artist. And
Please send them the one of the spooky house.
I think the file name was like the totally not haunted, not spooky house.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Oh goodness.
And getting something digital like that, it can help get the point across, but that's nothing compared to getting something that's written in invisible ink that they have to heat up or do something with. It just adds such another level of immersion.
Yeah, definitely. Handouts are one of the best parts of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can do it, especially if you can do one as cool as Invisible Ink, that is definitely a downside of playing online, is you don't get to take part in that part of the game.
I was thinking, like, there could be some way to do it through like the mail and something, like you get like a little packet of some stuff, but like that's too much prep work for stuff that might not even come into play.
True.
That's all, and like you got to get the timing right. And what if it gets lost in postage? And
and that's another con, potentially, is less obligated, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
I think I worded it poorly, but
I get you.
If you are not going to a physical place and doing a physical thing with physical people, it can be easier to be like, I just don't feel like doing it this week.
Right.
Whereas if you were doing it in person, you might be more motivated to be like, oh, but all the guys are going to be there. I got to go and hang out with all the guys.
Now, I think that comes down to personal preference, though, because me myself, like, I'm very introverted. So when it's like, I have to put pants on.
So it's a con and a pro,
right,
for different people.
It could be for different people. So like if I'm going somewhere, like, dang it, I gotta go interact with people. But if it's online, it's like, sweet, I'm already at my computer.
I guess.
Like I don't leave that area. So I'm ready to go.
Well, it's a factor regardless, whether it's a pro or a con. It's
something to keep in mind. Yeah. Our next question is this guy Jake again.
Jeez.
Coolest guy ever, I'm pretty sure.
I hear he has issues connecting on Skype.
What did you say?
Is this you? Is this you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it is not.
They ask, how should you handle it when a key player is going to be absent for an extended length of time?
Yeah. So I imagine that this is in some way inspired by real events.
It is indeed. We have one of our key players, which realistically with Brute Force, everyone's a key player.
Yeah.
They've all created these awesome backstories, and they've all grown as role players. And it's really a bummer when someone can't make a single episode. But our buddy Matt, he's got some stuff going on, and he's not going to be able to play for an unknown amount of time. So as such, we had to, as a party, find a solution. And I think that's one of the key answers to this question, is you really need to talk to the party and make that decision as a group.
Definitely.
Which is what we did, and we decided to start a new sub-campaign, and that's how AAA was born.
Cool.
So that's a really good solution, because one, you still get to keep playing. You're not in the the other person's missing out on the fun technically, but at the very least, like, their character and their story is saved for another day.
Yeah.
But with having like a sub campaign going on, you can interlock them in a different way.
That's really cool.
So you can like once you get back to the original campaign, you can have like the characters from the secondary campaign as like cameos and stuff like that, and it can make for interesting. And it'll make the world a little bit more like connected to the players. Because like they have more stakes in it because it's not just the one character that they're playing. It's it's in the multiple characters that they're doing.
Sure.
Absolutely. It fleshes out that world a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the idea of doing like a little sub campaign. I just make sure that you do make an effort to come back to the original one eventually. Cause like I know there have been times where in over the years that, we used to play, Jeff, where we would be like, hey, this week let's try something different. And then we just never went back to the original one.
Sure, yeah.
And, there's various reasons that can happen. I just want to say, like, it can be refreshing to go back to your original campaign after playing something else and, get, like, play it, but, like, refreshed. You know what I mean? So if you are going to go and do something else for a little bit, like, I do recommend you try to make sure that you go back to the original one, at least for a little while. One thing that I've encountered in groups that I think is a bad way to deal with this, or at least most of the time it's not the best way, is when I've been in groups where the DM will give if you're not going to be there, he'll give your character to another player to run along with their character. And I mean, there's a time and place for it. I think that if for story reasons it breaks too much immersion for one of the characters to just not be there, and the DM isn't able to come up with an explanation for why their character isn't there, okay, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But I just think that makes that character feel disposable, I guess, because it's like they're still there, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But they're there in name only. They're there when a spell needs to be cast, and otherwise they're just the dummy hanging out in the
I feel like that's good in a pinch if it's going to be like a short term, like they're going to be late to a session, or if it's maybe just one session that they're not going to be there for. So like it's not, it's not the best thing to do, but it's, it can be done.
I guess because the question is for an extended length of time. For an extended length of time, I've been in groups where it's been for an extended length of time, and I think that's why it was bad. So for a short term, yeah, sure. For one session, go for it. Yeah. But
or if the player who is gone, if their character is a small sized humanoid, that I've heard stories of gnomes and halflings being in somebody's backpack.
I thought you were going to say stand on each other's shoulders and wear a trench coat.
Sure,
that has definitely happened.
So yeah, it's like oh yeah, no, the halfling bard was actually just taking a nap in the barbarian's backpack for a couple sessions, and oh look, he's back.
There was one group that I played with, and this group it was the group that I started playing with in high school, and that group still plays together now, 11, 12 years out, and eventually it grew to the point where there were too many cooks in the kitchen. And the party, I mean, there were some game nights where there were 12 or 13 people sitting around the table, which is insane.
Boy. Yeah.
And it got to the point where some people would stop coming and then they would show up for a week or two. And so we had this massive party. And what the DM decided to do was, if you're not there, your character just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that particular campaign, it was very slow to level up. I think by the time we ended, we were maybe like level 4 when I left the group.
Whoa. So,
and we had been playing as that particular group for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
A level a year.
Yeah, right around that.
Well, I mean, with that many players, like, you're only getting one combat a session because combat's going to take so long, and then everybody's going to get so little XP. Of course, it's going to take forever.
Yeah, that was part of the reason why I left. So don't have big parties, folks.
Yeah, I think in our very first episode we talked about like what's the ideal party size, and I mentioned that like there have been a couple times where I've played in a group that had like for one session we had like 10 players, and I think it's a nightmare.
It's very difficult.
It can work, but don't do it.
Yeah, because like if it's a too small of a group, I think you can make adjustments to help balance things out. Because usually when it's only that many players, it's more about the balance of the mechanics and like, encounters and things like that. Cause like, what would be fine for 5 players is deadly for, 2 to 3 players.
Yeah.
So, but you can always just make adjustments for that. But when you're dealing with a dozen players, you're just going to be there all night.
Yeah. It's like every hour, each player is only going to be getting 5 minutes of screen time.
Absolutely.
And that's I don't see how that can be enjoyable on a long term for any of the people.
Spoiler alert, it wasn't, and that's why it kind of died out.
Yeah.
And that method of having the character either just be there or not that session did work for that particular group. Because even though there were like 12 people who were technically playing, there would be nights where there was only maybe 8 of us that showed up, including the DM.
Only 8.
Only 8. Yeah, that was a light night.
Yeah.
So with that setup, that was an okay solution. But long term, for a normal size party, I don't think that would work too great either.
Yeah. So as far as like handling it when a key player is going to be absent, like you were saying, Jake, talk to the group. Figure out what they want to do. If the rest of the group does want to keep going, depending on the story, you might be tempted to just have that player just have that character not be present, like have them go off and do something else. And that can be fun because then when that player eventually does come back, you can work with the player to figure out, well, what's your character been doing all this time?
Right, yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
you can come up with all these cool adventures that they've been having. And that can be a fun exercise in and of itself. Also, you don't want to rely on this too much, but you could have that character get killed, but then later on turns out that they weren't actually killed. The whole soap opera thing, they were in a coma or whatever. That can be an interesting way to deal with it too. Their character.
You guys, I was in the plane of carcery. What year is it?
Right. I don't know. Just it could be like an exciting moment when that character comes back later on, when everybody thought they were dead or whatever. Also, you might want to, when that player, I keep interchanging player and character. When that player does eventually come back, have them play a new character. Maybe one that has been an NPC in the campaign so far. Maybe not. I think that each of those approaches has their own advantages and disadvantages.
Our next question comes from Peter K. on email. How would you, as an experienced DM or player, help new players who, by nature, are really quiet to roleplay more? And then Peter K. says that he, in this instance, he knows that they want to roleplay more. They're just quiet.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of they just don't want to play along as they do.
Right.
They're just naturally quiet. So, I feel like I fall into that category sometimes.
Yeah. I think we've all probably been in this situation before where you want to role play, but you're just not comfortable with it, or you're not familiar enough with it. So what are some suggestions that you guys have?
Mind if I take this one, Jake?
Yeah, all yours.
Thanks, dude. Make them laugh. As a DM or a player with experience, as a DM, make them laugh, because you're the one that's going to be doing all the NPCs. Give those NPCs stupid voices, make yourself look like an idiot, and make them see that it's okay that you, like face to face especially, I mean, online, this doesn't even come into it because you're sat behind a desk, and no one else is there, so that's absolutely fine. But face to face, let your party know that it's okay for you. This is the time to play. This is the time to have fun. So I've always said that if everyone in the room is laughing, then everyone is winning. Everyone is playing the game in the right way. Everyone is having fun. So if you need to give that goblin a ridiculous voice for whatever reason and make all of your friends laugh, and then it loosens everybody up, I mean, that's the way that I do it. And as an experienced player, do the same thing. Just jump in from the get-go. If you know that the people around you aren't very experienced or they're quiet, show them that it's okay. Make a few jokes. I mean, in the first episode of Brute Force, I was the first person to speak in character, and I ended up calling Oh, no, I can't do it because it's swearing.
I can bleep it if necessary.
Yeah.
You can bleep it out. I ended up calling an eagle that gave me a letter a prick. And everyone cracked up, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, this is the kind of tone that we're going for." So, I mean, that's my advice. Make everybody laugh. Show them that it's okay to have fun. It's okay to let go and to have fun, to do these voices. And once, as a player or a DM, but DM especially, when you're the example, that is the best way to show everyone it's absolutely 100% okay. You guys are safe here. No one is going to take the mickey out of you or anything, and just go for it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a perfect
That was
answer.
awesome, Dan.
And also, I don't even consider prick a swear word, so I
Excellent.
I think that passes the smell test.
Yep.
I'm also pretty sure that when that moment happened in the campaign, I had the eagle turn around and flip him off with giant
You
talons.
did, 100%.
Oh, the bird flipped the bird. Okay.
It's
There you go. Now, if the bird flipped the bird while doing a flip,
Oh, well,
There you go.
he had to
There you
turn
go.
around, obviously.
Flipception, man. This is blowing my mind.
So Dan, when you talked about giving goblins a funny voice, Jeff shot me a look.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Gabe's, he has a technique.
So I have a technique. Anytime I voice a goblin or a kobold,
Yeah.
it's less the voice that I do, and it's more the physicality that I do. You can't see it, but I'm still going to do it anyway. I put my hands in front of my mouth. It's sort of, I make like a little claw with both of my hands. I put these in front of my mouth, and then I go. That's how goblins talk. That's how they speak goblin.
Right, yeah. You hear off in the distance, and like, oh,
Exactly.
goblins are nearby. I know it.
I was one of the stories I was writing a long time ago. I had a character imitate a goblin, and I described her putting her hands in front of her mouth for distortion. Doing funny voices, I think, is a great shortcut into getting someone a little bit more comfortable. When I do monthly games at my local library where I just run like a short 1-hour introductory session of D&D, and there were a few of those where I was running like these little pre-written, very, very short, like little micro adventures. And each of those had some sort of like a goofy NPC interaction. So I tried to make sure to really ham those up. In particular, there was one of them where the players meet a group of Galabdur, which are these like stone elementals. They're like stone elemental creatures. Mm-hmm. And so when they met them, I of course had to make sure to give them appropriate voices. And so when they met one of the characters, his name was Purr.
Nice.
He always talked like this. And I remember because my wife is a librarian at this library. She works in the next room over from where we do these games. I remember her poking her head in with the most horrified look on her face, staring straight at me. And I had to just keep doing the voice, staring her straight in the eyes.
No, that's brilliant. That's so good. I mean, like those, like you were saying about like the hand in front of the face, those physical things as well. That really helps. I mean, because like the campaign that I DM for at the moment, they're all my friends. One of them is my wife, and like except for her, everyone was a brand new player. So, and I try to bring them out of their shell. And for like this particular NPC they met very recently, he's a goblin. He has one eye, and he has these like ridiculously big kind of like Popeye arms. And so when they're his name's Blot. He owns a general store. It's called General Blot's. So when they talk to Blot, I reach over the DM desk, the DM screen, and I put my fists on the table, like I'm standing on them, and then I close one eye and I squint at them, and then like I do his voice. And it's just, they know exactly who they're talking to.
Yeah.
They're looking at their friend and they're thinking like, wow, you're being an idiot. And it's like, but this is so much fun.
Yeah.
So they return in kind, and it's very, very give and take, especially from a DM standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
There's this idea I've been throwing around where NPC sock puppets.
Yeah.
So it's like one you can, because like you can identify a sock puppet, because you can make it look however you want, so they know who they're talking to.
That's fantastic.
Gabe, you never seem to be on board with this. I don't understand.
I do think it's a good idea. I just think it's going to require a lot of prep ahead of time.
NPC sock puppets. It's great. You can have like Velcro interchangeable parts. Come on.
That's true. That's true.
You already got the DM screen. You just have the hand come up and you do the voice.
I'm not against this idea. I don't know why you're acting like I am.
I was like, oh, look, the ogre shows up and it's a boot, you know? Like,
But then when that's actually pretty good having the ogre be a boot. But then here's the thing, Jeff. When I'm doing the sock puppet with one hand, I'm going to have to hold the other hand in front of it for distortion.
But then you need a third hand for somebody to put it in front of your face, so it sounds.
No, I'll be drinking the glass of water while the sock puppet is. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
I think that physicality is a very important thing, not only for getting people more comfortable with you, because they're seeing like, oh, I'm not going to look like a goof if I do a funny voice. This guy's doing a funny voice and he's like waving his arms around or whatever. So it gets people comfortable. Also, I think that physicality is an important part of making memorable NPCs. Because like you were saying, Dan, if every time they interact with that shopkeeper or whatever, you are like putting your fists down on the table, the players are going to recognize that and they're going to easily be able to know who they are interacting with. And the world is going to feel more real. So I think that tying that in with making the players more likely to roleplay, it is probably easier to roleplay when you are more immersed, when you feel more like you're in a real world and less like you're sitting at a table while everybody's doing funny voices.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
So when you're talking to somebody who has like specific like mannerisms and stuff, you sometimes adopt those mannerisms. So like having exaggerated mannerisms and such when you're playing NPCs can the player, something different might come out in the players, so it can make for interesting. It's okay, so I had this really embarrassing moment in my life where...
Bring it on.
Okay, so sometimes when I'm talking to somebody who has an accent, I will adopt that accent.
Yeah.
Not on purpose. There was a time I walked into a 7-Eleven and there was somebody at the counter. So there was a young lady at the register and a man who was like a customer, and it sounded like he was like teasing her or something like that, just being playful and polite or something like that. But she was like laughing and everything like that, and so he kind of like turned and saw me come up to the counter and started like getting me in on the conversation and me being awkward and stuff. So he spoke with an English accent.
Oh, here we go.
And so
here we go.
I'm sorry to say I was my horrible, like, bad at social situations, and and my sense of humor can sometimes stem from like accent humor and stuff like that. So I thought it was part of the joke or something, and so I started talking in the English accent too. And then but because I was, I'm not great in social situations, like I didn't go very far, like I didn't like continue the conversation too much, and I kind of just let them do their thing, and I stepped away and like started shopping or whatever. And then by the time I left the store, I'm like, oh my god. Maybe that was actually his accent.
That was probably me, dude. I'm in America all the time.
Dang it. It's like, oh my goodness.
That's hilarious.
And then
I feel for you, Jeff.
This one's not as related, but it happened recently where I was in a McDonald's and I was wearing a shirt that I'm wearing a shirt that says I know the guacamole's extra. It's like a thing. Chipotle restaurants where you have to pay extra for guacamole, but if you ask for it, they have to tell you, oh, it's extra. And so like there's a shirt that says I know it's extra, just give it to me or whatever. And I was just ordering like a burger, and the guy's like, "Oh, do you want guacamole on that?" And I was like, "Oh no, thank you." I didn't realize it dawned on me after I left that he was referring to my shirt.
Oh,
wow. It's like this poor guy is just trying to find some ounce of positive interaction in his work.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, thank you.
I can give you the flip side of your Englishman story, which is I was in a hotel just outside Niagara Falls, and we were trying to get to the falls, and we stopped off at a gas station, and our GPS was broken. So I went up to the guy, and it was a lady. And I was like, oh, excuse me, our GPS is broken. We're trying to get to Niagara Falls. We don't really know which way to go. So which way down the highway do we go? And she just stared at me obliviously and just went, what? I repeated it in my best English that I could possibly muster, and I got the same response. What? Like this, and I just looked at my wife, and I just looked at this lady, and then I just went, "Oh yeah, hey, we're trying to get to Niagara Falls," and I just did it in an American accent, and then she went,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you want to take west down on the turnpike and blah blah blah, and I was like, what just happened? It was like she was so like, I don't know what it was. It was like the circuitry in her brain got fried. She was focused on my accent as opposed to the actual words I was saying. It was
It's
amazing.
that English hypnosis.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I think the lesson here is lead by example.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Which actually is a piece of advice that I would give for this. Like, but
yeah, for
you
sure.
yeah, like the more you do it, I feel like the more you do it, the more the player will be encouraged to do it as well. However, sometimes it can be daunting, so don't just expect them to pick up completely on their own. I would also recommend ask the player questions. Like, ask them questions about their character, ask them what they're doing, ask them, like the more you give them opportunities to engage with the game, I think the more eventually they'll start picking up on those opportunities.
Without a doubt.
Leading questions are very important,
Yes.
especially when it comes to new players. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to pick up that book? Do you want to go into this tavern? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
What I will add is that it could be a good idea if the person is super shy and really uncomfortable, maybe do a one-on-one session with them and just do a simple role play. Even if it's, okay, we're going to role play, you're at a market and you're buying supplies. Something super simple. And then if they get comfortable with that, then they could bring the skills they learn in that one-on-one session into the actual play session.
Sure. Sure. I think that even just getting their foot in the door, I think once they start doing it, they'll get better and better. Like I'm pretty sure once you get them engaged, it'll get progressively easier.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media discussion questions. So last week's social media question was favorite gaming snack. Jake and Dan, do you guys have an answer for that?
I do, for 100%.
I do as well, but I want to hear Dan's first.
Well, dude, you know what mine is?
No, what is it?
It's beer.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
Seriously, like from playing, a couple of drinks before I play, I'm nice and loose. I can, think on my feet. I could say I'm not scared all of a sudden. I mean, I played drums for years for a band, and I would always get scared before I went on stage. Always had stage fright, and it's very similar when it comes to podcasting as well. If I just have a couple of drinks, also I'm not condoning this. This is just for me. I could just kind of loosen up and enjoy the time I have with my friends on Brute Force, or when I'm playing like at home. But for me, when I'm DMing, I definitely like to have a steady supply of beer. I don't actually eat anything when I DM because, and I'm not some sort of an alcoholic or anything. I will literally just sort of have a little chug of beer whilst I'm listening to what everyone else wants to do.
Sure.
And they'll all be eating, pizza and chips and dips and all that sort of stuff. But I will be taking in everything just to take it all in, and then I can respond when I need to. So I don't actually eat when I DM because if my mouth is full and I've been asked a very important question, it's just like, oh, you can hit the dragon or whatever. It's also it's a bit much.
Also, you can't hear what everybody's saying when you're.
Yeah, exactly. Just a few drinks for me.
Yeah, I actually think that would be a good tip for the previous question. I'm not saying you should go and you should force somebody to drink, but if someone is quiet, try having a couple drinks first. Assuming that person drinks.
Yeah.
Maybe they just haven't drank while they're playing D&D.
Yeah.
Have a couple drinks with them, and then see if that gets them a little bit more loose for the conversation.
If there's some sort of activity that they do to help loosen them up, So take them out for a drink beforehand or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, or just have like, like half an hour to an hour before you actually start playing, where everyone's just, just around, you're just chatting, you're doing your normal thing that you do with your friends, and everyone has like a beer or two, and then you sit down and play. But like you said, Jeff, man, anything that particular person likes to do just to kind of like loosen up, then that's absolutely fine.
Jake, did you have an answer?
Yeah, definitely. So as a DM and a player, I don't like to eat while I'm playing. So normally the groups that I've been a part of is we would either, have all of our snacks beforehand, or we'd get, a couple pizzas. We'd eat while we talked about what's going to happen that night, or we would start playing, we'd order pizza before we start, and then by the time it got there, it's like a nice halfway point. So then we would break, have our dinner. And then that's also a really good point to take and kind of strategize what you might do when you guys get back to the game.
Sure.
As far as DMing, I will echo Dan as well. Having a nice beer to sip on whilst everyone else is talking, I think that can help keeps you relaxed and loose. You don't want to go too heavy on the alcohol.
No.
Sure.
There's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
You don't want to get blasted. It's just like, like I was saying, just something that just like chills you out, and you can just kind of enjoy it, but also be engaged, and you are there for the party when they need the information, they need that response from the NPC. But also it does make it easier to do those stupid voices.
Without a doubt.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, what if it's my character and he's an alcoholic, and I'm just trying to get into character. That's all it is.
It's what my character would do. Is not a good excuse.
Well, I have the show for you. It's called Brute Forcing Ignorance. There's a character named Flint who just happens to have booze everywhere he goes.
Yeah, I don't have a drinking problem. My character does.
My character does.
Yep. All right, Jeff, do you recall what your answer was?
I went for something bougie like sparkling water and cucumber sandwiches.
Cucumber sandwiches.
I was just trying. I mean,
come on.
They're tasty, and they're finger food. They're tasty. They're not super messy. They're not loud. They're not like super crunchy or like greasy or anything. So I don't know. I was trying to think of some sort of finger food you can bring to a party or whatever.
Sure.
So.
I think we answered this as a discussion question on our very first episode, and I think back then I said I liked now and laters, but I don't really eat now and laters anymore.
The noise, like the worst food.
They are the worst food for a DM. I think nowadays I would say like anything that isn't greasy. So not really. I wouldn't want chips, but like Oreos are good, or possibly gummy bears. I think I said something about liking gummy bears, and then also. Carrots. I think I came down on carrots being a good healthy option.
Yeah. We were thinking on the healthy side of things.
Yeah.
Is that why you chug a gallon of RC Cola as well to balance it out?
Everything in my life is to balance out the unhealthiness of my RC Cola.
Beautiful.
So we got a whole bunch of responses on various platforms. Most of them are pretty short, though, so I think I'll just run through a bunch of these. On Facebook, Courtney B says pizza with 3 exclamation points.
Oh, sure.
So
that's correct.
At least 3 is required for a good pizza.
Yep. Sean M says super nibs all day, every day.
Super nibs.
I'm actually not sure what.
I think that's either like a little cracker or
okay.
Cracker or cookie sort of thing.
Maybe. Andrew H says tub of red vines last my group a couple weeks. That's pretty good. I actually have a big bag of licorice that I just bought from a gas station yesterday. Romeen B says Kentucky Fried Chicken with potato wedges. Again, I would aim away from anything greasy, but that's just me.
Yeah.
And Earl's cheese puffs. Don't know who Earl is, but hopefully his cheese puffs are good. Cheese puffs are okay, but again, you're getting stuff on your fingers that my character sheet would look awful.
Well, I'm thinking about the expensive books you spent like $30 to $50 on.
There you go.
And now they're covered in Cheeto dust.
Right.
Exactly. Adam B says cookies, and this has like 7 or 8 exclamation points.
That's too many.
The players fear taking cookies from in front of me. Samuel O says definitely chips and dip, maybe a soda too. I feel like soda it's a given. You gotta have soda.
Oh yeah.
Trent C, the hearts of my adversaries, with 2 exclamation points.
Not enough.
Not enough.
It's either 1 or 3. You can't, like, if you're gonna do exclamation points, it's either 1 or 3.
2 is a weird number.
It is.
I surprisingly, I'm 100% down with what you're saying right now. It is 1 or 3.
Yeah.
That is the answer.
5
is the answer.
5 is right out.
Yes. Steve A says Cheez-Its or kettle cooked salt and black pepper chips. I can't be stopped. I think those are actually both pretty good. Like, I think kettle cooked chips tend to be less greasy. I think
so.
And Cheez-Its
because they're baked.
Yeah. Daniel J says gummy candy.
Yep.
Brandon B, what is that? Hold on. He put an emoji of.
Beer glasses.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
sorry.
it's the cheers emoji.
It's real small, so I can't I can't tell what it looked. It looked like a couple peanuts or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Brandon's.
They're
clearly my
American
boy.
beers, not English beer.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Over on Reddit, Timmy Soup says chips/end.
Okay, well,
That's the end all be all, I
right.
guess.
Can't go.
And Javokler says anything the players bring. #feed your DMs. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
True story.
I like that both as a player and as a DM. Like
Right.
I love to bring stuff to the group, and I like when players bring stuff to the group. On Twitter, whoops, sorry, I didn't bring up the.
Whilst you're looking that up, I had an idea because one of the comments was about the players were fearful of taking a cookie from the DM.
Yeah.
So what if you had them roll a d20, and you were like, okay, you get a cookie from this pile, but the player doesn't know what it is. They think, oh, look at this brightly colored M&M cookie. They rolled bad, and it's filled with Skittles instead.
Oh no!
Oh no! What's wrong with you?
I thought you were gonna say they reach for that oatmeal chocolate chip cookie, but it's oatmeal raisin.
Oh no.
Ah.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of like bring it into the game somehow. It's like, well, if you want a cookie, roll a d20, and like then there's like a chart they have or something that something happens to the player.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Random encounter.
Here's the thing. There was one time my wife went to a friend's house to make cookies. She brought home a plate of cookies, and she was like, "Hey, Gabe, you should try that one right there." And so I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I took a bite of it. She had made a cookie with garlic salt instead of sugar. Oh, just like the one cookie. I don't know how she did just the one cookie, but it was the ultimate, like, that was a mimic right there.
Yeah.
That was a cookie mimic. So you could have the one cookie amidst all of the others, and then like, yeah, why don't you try one?
Try that.
And then
one.
see which one they get, and then
See, now, like, because I know cookie recipes, some of like have like salt in it. So if you had the sugar,
I guess.
I'm wondering if you substituted regular salt for garlic salt, if it would turn out
it'd be bad. Jeff.
edible.
It'd be bad.
No,
But
it's gross.
It'd be
Don't
real
do it.
bad.
Just don't do it.
But I mean, like, but the sugar completely substituted for garlic salt.
I guess
That
if you
sounds-
can taste the garlic, it's gonna be bad.
well, I like garlic a lot, so I don't know.
Do it like
All right,
garlic cookies.
go ahead and do it,
That's
Jeff.
not-
I will remember never to try any of your cookies.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Also, Jeff, did you just quote Monty Python a second ago?
I did.
Yes, he did.
Kudos. I laughed very, very loud, but I was on mute.
Oh no.
But I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
All right. Over on Twitter, Crit Academy says, I'm a fan of chips personally, and of course they aren't complete without the nectar of the gods, which he means water.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Mead.
I guess. I mean, I
I think, well,
different strokes. I guess.
honestly, with all the snacks and stuff thrown out, like soda is not very hydrating. Like,
Shut your mouth, Jeff. Get out. If anybody would like to be the new co-host,
it's just like staying hydrated is really important. And
Yeah.
you know, like I get headaches when I haven't had like some sort of hydration. You know?
I get headaches when I don't drink soda.
That's the caffeine headache.
And then D&D Beach Lab, which is D&D Character Lab on Twitter, but
Oh.
they changed their name to D&D Beach Lab.
Okay.
They said, usually some hostess crap. It's crap because I know it's full of chemicals, but I love it anyway.
Sure.
And then there was a little bit on Discord. It kind of devolved pretty quickly, so I won't read all of it.
Oh God.
But Stiltskin Kupo 84 says Doritos, preferably ranch, but nachos good too, and brisk iced tea to wash the snacks down with. I Am Artworks says, I have some major Starburst cravings when I game because back in the day in high school, when I gamed every weekend with my mom, that was the sweet snack of choice at our tables because of her being allergic to chocolate. I made links out of the wrappers and made a Starburst Link chainmail tank top and wore it to a Living Greyhawk D&D convention at age 17.
Whoa.
Crafting
That's
linked...
cool.
That is really cool.
That actually might be the coolest person I've ever heard of. That is so awesome.
Yeah. And then they just concluded, crafting linked Starburst wrappers was my during game, keep my hands busy fidget task. So there you go. Damien the DM says, whiskey, cider, I actually don't eat while we game. I will either eat before or after, or we will take a break, which involves a quick snack. And then Noah Wizard says, talking about gaming cravings makes me want $1 double cheeseburgers and makes me want to take the empty pop bottles and stick them between the air ducts so I bonk my head on them.
Yeah,
that is...
This is our buddy that we played D&D with. And
yes.
like the basement that we played in, there was the air ducts right above the table. And
Jay would shove 2-liter bottles up there.
Yeah, that you could kind of like wedge them up there, but then they would stick down a little bit more, so you'd bang your head on them all the time.
And we would. This was like 2005, 2006 or something. And so McDonald's had $1 double cheeseburgers.
Yeah, now they have the McDouble, which I could go on for an hour.
And McDoubles aren't $1 anymore. They were for a while. Now they're like $1.60 or something.
And that right there makes me so mad.
Yeah. I know.
Because I already have a rant about the McDouble, and now that they've changed it to be more than $1, just get rid of the damn thing. It just makes it so that there's a 50% chance that when I order a double cheeseburger, I'm going to get a McDouble instead.
Yeah.
Like,
it's pretty bad.
Sorry.
Peace-Joy Pancake says, we like to try out new and weird chips, so we don't really have a staple snack unless you count our tea break. Then a nice cup of English breakfast is definitely my favorite.
That's my boys.
I do wonder, because she is from Europe, I wonder if she means chips to mean American chips or British chips. Because
you see, this is the problem, because a lot of us kind of like take your colloquialisms.
Yeah.
Like when I said gas station, I would normally say petrol station.
Sure.
So like she may be saying your chips, not our chips.
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Yeah. And then Jason says, combos and cherry Coke and also chocolate covered pretzels, which then led to a very, I mean, let's be fair, this actually was kind of rude of me and Steve to go into an inside joke where we just keep repeating the word combo.
Right.
Because we used to play Marvel
Killer
Ultimate
Instinct.
Alliance. No, it's Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Oh. Or no, maybe I think it was one of the X-Men Alliance ones.
Isn't it? Okay.
Because they made the X-Men ones and then they made the Marvel.
Whatever it was.
Whichever one.
There were these video games for like the PS2 and Xbox where it was like a Diablo type game, and you would constantly the game would constantly be shouting combo, combo, because like whenever two people would attack at the same time, they'd like do extra damage, and the computer would go combo, and so we'd play it like all four of us constantly just attacking, and so just combo, and then we'd be eating combos while we were playing. So every time one of us would put one in our mouths, we had the obligation to yell combo.
Oh, this is amazing.
So good times. I'm very glad that Jason is on the Discord now.
Yeah, and also, like, going back to like near the beginning of the show, these are the pros of playing face to face with your friends.
Definitely.
Without a doubt.
So that was last week's social media discussion question. This coming week's question, though, maybe this is a bit less serious. A bit more serious. Is, apart from death, what is the worst outcome you've experienced from failing a saving throw? I definitely have an answer that I've given as an example on the show many times. But do any of you three have
Go for
answers?
it, Jake.
Sure. I had a character who failed a saving throw and lost an eye. And I had a penalty on my dexterity. I think it was my dexterity saving throws from that point out, because he didn't have as good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
Well, dang.
Which completely changed the mechanics of how I played that character.
That's interesting. That if it completely changes how you play the character, I mean, that can be good and bad. Like, obviously it sucks when, you have to change up what you're doing, but I mean, maybe I don't know. I'm not you, but maybe what you did was worthwhile in its own right.
I know I had been playing a ranger, and I think I started going. I either multi-classed a fighter, or he let me just re-roll the character as a fighter.
Yeah.
Where Dex wasn't as important.
Okay. I feel like losing a limb or like even losing a magic item is sometimes worse than death in D&D,
Right.
which is really goofy.
Sure.
But, you know.
Well, because you like, it's like if you can't play the character that you wanted to, like how you wanted to play him anymore, you'd rather just have him die in a cool way.
Have his brother, who has all the same stats, show up.
Yes.
Jeff, do you have a good answer? If not, it's fine.
I can't quite. I don't know. I can't quite think of one. I don't know. Like I can think of maybe like failed skill checks or something like that. But saving throws, yeah, they usually just like, oh, well, I just took more damage or something like that.
Sure. And Dan, did you have an answer?
Seeing as I've only been playing for 2.5 years, not really. The worst thing I can remember is playing Lost Mines of Phandelver. I was assigned the role of the elf wizard from the starter pack, and I remember leading the party, stupid decision as a wizard, with my dark vision, obviously, and rolling a nat 1 on my stealth to then be mobbed by wolves and goblins and more goblins from a bridge and a bugbear behind him jumping down from a cliff. So aside from that, I think that's the worst thing I've ever done. That was terrible.
Okay. Yeah. I've given this example on the show many times, but I had a character, Ichi, who there was a session where none of the other players showed up, so it was just me and the DM. And I was exploring a, like, haunted mansion or something, and I failed to save. Next thing I knew, I had started a war.
Okay.
I guess the people that were living in the mansion, they were trying to... There was this, like, prince that had come from the nearby country that was... They were trying to assassinate him, and the prince came to me for help. He knew that I was like an adventurer, and hey, go stop these people that are trying to kill me or whatever. And I failed to save, and they dominated me. And I don't know if I actually killed him, but there was evidence that I killed him, and my character couldn't remember. So the countries went to war because this prince had been assassinated in a nearby country, and then I was put on trial. Again, they eventually some reason they found out that I wasn't guilty, but while I was in prison, my party members tried to break me out and they all got killed. So they died. I didn't. I was still alive, and I had to live with the fact that everybody died on my behalf. And
my word.
It sucked.
That is intense.
It was intense, but that was the DM, that particular DM, because we switched up who was DMing from adventure to adventure. That DM was the one that when you rolled a natural 1, you hoped it meant you died. You hoped that it wasn't something worse than death. So, anyway, so that's those are our answers. Hopefully, our listeners have some answers between this week and next week. I don't expect as many answers as we did to the gaming snack.
Yeah, everyone eats.
Everybody eats, exactly. Not everybody dies. I don't know.
Whoops.
Not everybody starts a war.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
Take two.
So I'll use take 2. So before we close out, I guess let's take a moment. Let's wind down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have maybe given their lives so that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. All right. Today's funeral pyre, if I'm not mistaken, is brought by Jake. Is that correct?
It is true.
Okay. Well, then you have the floor.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, gather around the fire as I tell you the tale of Billy the Knoll. So I had joined a campaign later on, and my friends, instead of just having me make a character, they said, oh, we have this character we had captured, you could just play that character. And that was Billy the Knoll.
That's a great start.
So Billy was I think it was like a level 4. He was a Knoll rogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not play him as a rogue because he had a high strength stat and he did the craziest stuff. But part of the character was that he spoke like toddler level common. so he had a really hard time understanding people. And throughout the campaign, Billy would spend time with the halfling, I think she was a cleric, who would teach him Common. And by the end of that campaign, Billy was probably a 5th grade level of vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And that campaign was unique because at the end of it, that was when my friends, they were all graduating college. Everyone was kind of going their separate ways. So we knew the campaign was ending. And what we did was we all drew names from a hat, and we wrote whoever's name we drew, we wrote that person's, the end of that character. And just the only rules was that it had to be something positive. I believe it was my friend Renee had got Billy, and she wrote it off that Billy eventually learned Common quite well and spent the rest of his life helping other creatures learn Common, such as Kuatoa and other humanoids who were had kind of given up their evil ways. And he died a very old gnoll living in the forest surrounded by his friends and a kind of adopted family.
Oh,
Oh, well, there you go.
that wasn't sad at all.
Lame.
Billy had a happy ending after a adventurous life.
Sorry, I'm cutting some onions in here, and Jeff, is it raining?
It's there's a leak in the roof, I think.
Yes. Shoot, now what sort of a send off do I use for that? So usually I do something goofy, but that was.
There was a
heartwarming.
time where Billy stole the paladin shield, used it as a snowboard, hit a cliff, and grabbed a harpy's leg. So if you want to take that,
Okay,
I'll just leave that on the table.
All right, then let's raise a glass in memory of Billy the Knoll, who teaches us Hang Ten.
Clink.
All right, well, that'll do it for our episode for today. Do you guys want to, once again, tell our listeners about yourselves and your show and where they can reach you?
Sure. So, the podcast is called Brute Force and Ignorance, a Dungeons & Dragons podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, in the iTunes Store, through the Google Play, and we really appreciate anyone who would give our show a listen. There's currently 38 episodes, which covers the first part of our campaign. We are on a hiatus from that, but very soon our new episodes will be live covering the new adventures of Amelie's Astounding Adventures, with new characters, but the same players, and I think everyone's really going to like where this campaign goes. Dan, if anyone wanted to reach out to talk to us about BF&I, how could they do that?
They can reach us by emailing us at bfidand@hotmail.com. That's bfidand@hotmail.com. They can search the Facebook page, Brute Force and Ignorance, a D&D podcast on Facebook. Send us a message, give us a like, give us a share. We love those shares. That's how we reach new listeners. Or you can very simply tweet us at bfidand, and we will read your comments and questions on the show.
All right, so thank you guys so much for coming on the show. For our listeners to submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes, and speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, submit them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jake, until next time.
Listeners, may all of your rolls be natural 20s.
Ow!